My guest today is Aditya. He's a breathwork instructor and also the host of My Seven Chakras. Today we talk about the power of cold showers, breathwork, and spirituality, and how it can help us to live longer and better. So check it out. Aditya, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Risa, for having me on.
This is a topic that I've been a little bit afraid of, to be honest, but I'm so curious about it, and I know it's really good for me. But cold showers, cold exposure, I know it's like, not no pun intended, but like the hottest thing, right? And how that really cascades into so many other aspects of our life and our health and our longevity. But before we get into that, I would love to hear a little bit more about you and your background and how you became a breathwork instructor, how you became an advocate for cold exposure.
Absolutely. My name is Aditya, and I'm the host and founder of My Seven Chakras. I've been doing this podcast for about almost 7.5 years now. We've crossed 6.5 million downloads, completed 500 episodes, and we've got listeners over 150 countries. We also do a blog over at My Seven Chakras. I'm a
And what
breathwork
does that
instructor.
focus on? What
What's
does
that?
my seven chakras focus
Yeah.
on?
So essentially, we focus on ancient wisdom for the modern mind. We focus around topics that can help people calm their mind, relax their nervous system, and experience deeper senses of bliss. And topics are breath work and cold exposure, intermittent fasting, nutrition. And for the most part, my podcast was long format interviews with people around the world that were doing interesting things. And you've been on my podcast as well.
Yes.
So yeah, so essentially that's what it is. How did I get into the breath? Um, I'd say when I was growing up, my initial exposure was to yoga. I had compulsory yoga classes in school, and during that phase, we did a lot of yoga postures, a lot of breathing exercises. And what I enjoyed the most was the last part of the yoga session, which is the shavasana, which is where you're literally like a corpse, you're lying down, and the instructor guides you through different visualizations where you're focusing on different parts of your body and just relaxing. And what was
Everybody
fascinating to
loves a
me,
good shavasana.
isn't it? Yeah. And it was so fascinating because I never had an experience like that where I was able to project my awareness and my consciousness to different parts of the body. That felt really, really relaxing. And I thought deep down that was sort of like a seed that was planted into my mind where I would want to learn more about it. And so then, um, this was about maybe 10 years back, I caught the internet marketing bug where all of a sudden I noticed people like Tim Ferriss and other people who were, growing their business online and starting blogs and starting podcasts. And that sort of fascinated me. But a lot of people were doing it in the marketing sphere, in the financial sphere. And I thought to myself, what is that one topic that I'm really interested in is meditation and, the chakras and breath work. And that sort of, uh, once again, planted a seed in my mind. What if I could start a podcast and interview people who've been doing this for all their lives and learn more about these topics? So that sort of got me started on starting the podcast when I came to Canada about 7 years back, 8 years back now. I just started it. I thought I'll do about 10 to 15 episodes, but one thing led to the other, and we've now done 500 episodes over.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Um, so tell me about your very first, how did you hear about cold exposure and cold showers and tell me why is it so good for you to do this?
Yeah, of course. I've been doing cold showers regularly now for the last 5 years. And I think the way that I came to know about cold showers was a phase where I was in Canada, but I wasn't really healthy in the sense that I was doing these mental exercises like meditation and things like that. But on the physical level, I felt that I was not fit and I really needed to go to the gym. And so I was coming across all these different practices and techniques and approaches that one can use to get physically fit. And one option obviously was going to the gym and lifting weights. But the other option I came across was something called calisthenics. I'm sure you've heard about that as well. But the idea is to exercise your body without the use of weights, and to do push-ups and sit-ups and pull-ups and all these things like that. And that instructor, the person, I don't remember his name, but he did speak about the importance of things like cold exposure as well as intermittent fasting, and how these practices can then supplement what you're doing with your workouts. And I still remember back in those days, it was really hard, just going into the cold shower. And obviously, I did not start right from the cold. I started with a warm shower, and then towards the end, maybe like 20 to 30 seconds of cold. But I still remember finding it so like stinging, the cold. But these days, I go straight into the cold, but it's not as if I don't hesitate. It's not like I want to voluntarily go into the cold every morning. I still think about it like 10, 15 seconds. Should I really do it? Should I not do it? Should I go into the cold? But ultimately, it's like a hack for the mind where I say, forget it. I'm going to feel good at the end of it, and I do it. But I know that these days I don't feel that stinging sensation. And I think partly it's because of certain biological adaptations that my body has made in order for me to better withstand the cold. And I'm happy to go into that if you want.
Yeah, no, I mean, because our natural human state is to be comfortable, right? It's
Yeah.
to have pleasure. It's not to, you know, you know, put ourselves in positions of pain or discomfort. Yet these mini or micro ways to put ourselves out of our comfort zone are actually really essential for longevity and for good health, right? I mean, isn't that's why you're doing it? It's not because you love cold showers. I mean, I think some people do love cold showers, but um, what do you when you're having these like micro stressors, as you call them? Um, what's happening to your body, and why is it so good for us?
Yeah, that's very interesting. And I've spent a lot of time thinking about it as well. The fact that in our modern world right now, everything is so comfortable, right? In fact, we are encouraged to seek more comfort, to seek warmth, to seek food all the time, to seek breathing all the time, right? In fact, oxygen is being glorified. Oh, we need more oxygen. But what I've found is our ancient elders, maybe voluntarily or involuntarily for a longest period of times, had a lot of discomfort. We didn't have food all the time, so we had to go through phases of feast and famine. We didn't have warm temperature all the time, so we would sometimes have a cave where it would be nice and warm, but then a lot of times, because of having to get away from predators, we would have to face and wither the cold. And similarly, even breath, right? Sometimes we had to hold our breath, and sometimes we had to breathe and relax normally. So I feel that these practices somehow were ingrained into our DNA to help us evolve, get stronger, become more resilient. And for some reason or the other, last 30 to 40 years, we've forgotten about our natural tendencies of seeking discomfort. And so, to answer your question, what happens when we do a cold shower or immerse ourselves into the cold? Well, firstly, what happens is improved circulation. We notice a dramatic improvement of circulation. The other thing that happens is also the body goes into a state of shock, right? Because the brain is like, wait, what really happened right now? Sending signals, for a phase, setting our body into a state of sympathetic dominance, fight or flight. The other thing that happens also over a period of time is that the body starts adapting and creating what is called brown fat. Usually we've got regular fat, white fat, but it creates what is called brown fat, which is able to withstand cold in a better way so that we don't have those shivers all the time. And it's also more improved in terms of producing energy that is needed to create warmth and again protect ourselves from the cold. So there are a lot of things that are happening when we immerse ourselves into the cold. And I think the best thing that happens is we train our brain to withstand more and more stressors, more and more things that come out of nowhere, like it happens in day-to-day life, and it makes us stronger. That's what I've noticed as well.
So tell me a little bit about the difference between like chronic stress and micro stress, right? So little bits of stress is good
Right.
for us. But if you have chronic stress, that actually causes chronic inflammation, which then, causes chronic disease. So if you're someone who's always stressed out, do you recommend doing something like this as well? Are you placing more stress on the body, or you're then displacing the chronic stress, and you know what I mean?
Yeah, yes, of course. Um, Based on my experience, and I can only speak to my experience over here, as well as people that I've spoken to and connected with. But basically, our human body is very intelligent. We've got the nervous system that has its two branches. We've got the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight, and we've got the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest and relax. And so, back in the day when we were out in the grasslands or in the jungles, when there was this predator that would, you know, pounce on us, our ancestors had just two options: either you fight that animal if you're strong enough and capable enough, or you flight, you run away, or you freeze. You just stay there. Hopefully, that predator will not notice, and then you will be safe. But then what would end up happening is you would put that gas pedal on your nervous system. Yes, you would be alert and stressed out, but then hopefully once the predator would go away, you would calm down and relax, and your body would realize that now it's time to focus on digestion and cognitive function and other things that are not super critical immediately but are important, right? But chronic stress is when your foot is always on that gas pedal, mainly because of our modern lifestyle, our notifications that go every day, emails that come from time to time, phone calls, and this is just compounding over a period of times. Looming deadlines, people are getting laid off these days. The banks are going crazy. Inflation is at an all-time high, right? So I don't blame people of today, where we always have these stressors, and we always have that bear or that lion right outside our door. Now we know logically there's no lion, but our subconscious mind feels that way, and we keep remaining in that elevated level of sympathetic dominance. Now, once again, like I said, it's like putting your foot on the gas pedal. It takes a toll on our health. And so the solution is finding ways to rewire our brain and remain more in a state of parasympathetic dominance, not just at a conscious level, but at a subconscious level as well. And the key to that, not just cold showers, but also I would say starting with some nice, relaxing breathwork sessions so that when you're in the cold shower, you know how to relax. The cold shower is just mimicking what might happen in your life when you're driving the car and somebody, speeds in front of you, or maybe when somebody at your workplace says something that, just triggers you out of nowhere. How do you breathe? How do you respond? The cold shower is just mimicking that stress response in the morning so that the cold shower for a lot of people is the most fearful thing that they're going to do during the day, right? Once you conquer that, during the afternoon, evening, everything else is in comparison not as fearful. So that's the idea from a narrative standpoint.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've never taken I've taken a cold shower, but only
Right,
because it's very hot outside, not a deliberate cold shower like now when it's, going into winter.
right.
Um, so how do you recommend, for someone like me who is very interested in theory,
Yeah,
but is very afraid of actually doing it?
yeah.
Um, what can we do to like actually go ahead and, take that first step?
Yes, of course. Um, in fact, there are multiple ways you can look at it. First is to like if a person is not convinced, then they will not do the cold shower in the first place. So first I would suggest sort of reading about cold showers, finding out the science about cold showers, finding out your why. Why do you want to do the cold shower in the first place, right? If you like warm showers and if you're happy with it, then stick with warm showers. But if you find out, like maybe you're listening right now, that there are a multitude of benefits that you can accrue from cold showers, then that's the first thing, because then you're mentally wired to or motivated to do that cold shower in the first place. I would suggest starting slow or starting small. Do that warm shower, but then towards the end, turn up the dial, the cold water faucet a little bit for about 10 seconds. first time. Next day, make it 15 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. And you can track yourself. Track yourself. How do you feel after that cold shower? Getting out of the warm shower, how do you feel getting out of the cold shower? 10 to 15 seconds. And so, really building it up slowly but surely. Maybe week number 2, you go to 30 seconds. Week number 3, you go to 1 minute. And you'll notice you feel more confident, you'll feel more certain. And then ultimately, maybe just doing like a getting into the cold shower, but doing it for 20 seconds, right? So I feel that building it up slowly will give you the confidence and courage to take small micro steps and moving in the direction of ultimately taking a cold shower for about 3 to 4 minutes. That's the path I would recommend. Also, there are certain breathing techniques that can prepare you before getting into the cold shower, and then I can talk about that also.
Yeah, so actually, I do want to talk about the breath work. But before we do, so if you take a cold shower, can you do the cold shower first and then the warm hot shower? Or it doesn't really, you don't really reap the benefits if you do it that way? Does it really kind of need to be the end, or you only
Okay.
take a cold shower?
Yeah, the reason why I recommended warm first and then cold is because you're used to the warm right now, uh, right? So if a person is typically, uh, wanting to get into cold, then invariably they're either using lukewarm or maybe hot water. So do what is comfortable for you immediately, and then go into the cold. But I know a lot of people, especially in Scandinavian countries, that practice the warm, cold all the time. So they go into the sauna, stay there for about 10 minutes, really hot, really invigorating, really, I love saunas as well. And then jumping into the cold for about 5 minutes and then going back into the hot. That I've found has benefits too, opens up your pores, makes you nice and fresh. And that contrast I feel is really good for the body. So that could work as well. Contrast.
Very cool. Very cool. So, what in terms of breath work, then, talk to me a little bit about the importance of breath work. It's not just like regular breathing, but there's
Right.
certain techniques, and there's so many different kinds of breath work that people can do, right?
Yeah.
Um, so, if we're going to go into cold exposure, what kinds of breath work are you recommending?
Yeah, of course. So the breath is what I have found the most important tool that we have at our disposal to influence our nervous system. Um, right? And breath is such a crucial thing. We can, not have food for, I don't know, a couple of days. I think 15 days, that's what they said. You can go without water as well for about 3 to 4 days, maybe five. But you cannot go without breath for even like 30 to 40 seconds if you've not practiced enough, right? So automatically your body freezes and your brain is thirsting for that air. And so breath is such a crucial aspect of our life. When we breathe in, our sympathetic nervous system is activated. When we breathe out, our parasympathetic nervous system is activated. And so all of that happens just between an in breath and an out breath. And so the key then is to understand the different breathing techniques and what each breathing technique does for our nervous system and what we need, like what state do we need to be in. Maybe in the morning we can afford to be a little bit more sympathetic dominant, a little bit more alert, a little bit more vibrant and energetic, because we want to face the day, we want to go into that meeting. Typically maybe we have a few coffees, right? And so maybe we can have that coffee, but then use an invigorating, energetic breathing technique that can then really complement the coffee that you're having and allow you to show up in that meeting. Uh, and when if you're thinking about going into the cold shower, one technique that I would recommend is long exhales. Because once again, what does exhale do? It activates your parasympathetic nervous system. When you go into the cold shower, automatically your sympathetic gets alert, your body's alert, your nervous system is on high alert because you're being bombarded with these cold water droplets. And so really calming yourself down and exhaling, right, will allow you to relax and calm down and create that vasodilation that will allow you to remain in a state of balance. at that stage.
Wow. So what do you talk? What about like box breathing or like there's a lot of that like kind of breathing, which kind of I think that is more invigorating, right? That's really trying to trigger your the micro stressors as well. Do you
Yeah.
recommend that at all? Like after your shower or that sort of thing? Like when you're already in that sympathetic state?
Yeah. So what I do is, especially if, so these days, in terms of where I'm at with my practice in the morning when I'm getting into the cold shower, and I go directly into the cold shower, I do not need any breathing technique, mainly because I'm doing it so I shock myself. But if does that make sense? So I'm doing it particularly because I do want to experience that shock and I want to get the maximum impact, so to speak. And then when I'm in the cold, I might do some relaxation breathing techniques just to allow myself to balance and to calm. But if I'm going into the English Bay here in Vancouver during the cold winter, where it's really cold water, that's when, especially if I'm with friends and people who are going together who might be new to cold immersion or cold dips, we do a more invigorating, energizing breathwork technique, which could be as simple as one by one in and out, right? And what that does essentially is you are activating your sympathetic for a short period of time, once again intermittent, not chronic stressing, and then you spend some time to really go even lower and more relaxed. You spend some time in deep meditation, maybe 1 minute, maybe two, because then you're training your nervous system to generate that inner heat, right? And then you're also priming your nervous system to go into the water. So that's what I would recommend if you're new to cold exposure, cold dips, especially if that water is really cold, to do some priming, energizing breath work before getting into the cold. I also do visualization, which I find is really powerful. Whether you look at the monks in Tibet or maybe in India, visualization is a core component of their practice, even especially if they're going into the cold rivers and cold lakes. So just visualizing yourself, firstly, visualizing how you are going to feel when you come out of the cold, or maybe visualizing one challenge that you're having in your life when it comes to maybe your relationships or maybe your business, a roadblock that you've been working on for the last couple of weeks, and you don't seem to get beyond that. Visualize that the cold water is that challenge, and once you come out of the cold water, you would have either gotten a resolution, or you would have overcome that challenge, right? So that's something that really works for me, because the cold represents all the problems and roadblocks in our life. And so going into the cold, coming out is powerful. The other thing I do is I visualize as if my body is full of fire and heat, and along with the breathing techniques, going into that water with that visualization of your body full of fire helps you build that warmth, and then you're able to acclimatize to that cold water much more easily. So it's a combination for me of breathing, the visualization, and just holding that state, that setting that intention of why you're doing that in the first place.
Very cool. Very cool. And I can
Yeah.
see how that can cascade. Like once your shower is over, right?
Yeah.
It really does set your day, or if you're doing it at night, I guess it will set your sleep um, to be prepared for the next day in a very powerful way, right? You had talked about also before the call about spirituality and how you
Hmm.
link spirituality into this practice, which I think is also really powerful, right? It's all interlinked. It's like, I feel like a lot of times Western medicine just silos everything, right? It's
Yeah.
like when you have heart disease, they only focus on the heart. And meanwhile, it's of course affecting your entire body. So I love this idea of how cold exposure can ripple into the your overall health, but how it also connects with the way you set your intentions and then also your spirituality. So talk to me a little bit about that,
Hmm.
how you kind of integrate that into your practice.
Yeah, of course. Um, Through my practice, what I've realized is that we are not just human beings having a spiritual experience and studying meditation, and maybe doing yoga or working with our chakras. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And practices like these, like cold exposure and breath work, give us a glimpse sometimes of the eternal self that we are essentially. And so for me, what cold shower does, or cold exposure, whatever that might be, on a physical level, when you're getting into the cold, your body creates these endorphins, adrenaline, um, uh, you know, um, oxytocin, serotonin, all these beautiful chemicals that create a concoction that make you feel good, makes you feel really happy, makes you feel that you don't need a lot in the world in order to feel good about yourself and about the world around you. Also, um, because you're in the cold, it has the effect of silencing the chatter in the mind, calming down your default mode network, and making you feel much more connected with everything and everyone around you. That is a beautiful spiritual experience. When you combine breath work, and everybody knows about breath work these days, how it can take you into altered states of consciousness, how it can make your brain vibrate in alpha or even theta. Theta is like more deep state, the deep sleep, but then it can prime yourself to have better quality sleep and restful sleep. And so for me, breath work and cold exposure are teachers that allow us to at least seek and find out who we truly are, which are these essential spiritual beings that we are. Also, I feel technology is also accelerating this change, because before this conversation, you spoke about how the internet is allowing us to connect so immaculately, so amazingly well with people around the world and have conversations that we would not been able to have before. And to me, from a spiritual standpoint, you're sitting somewhere in the east coast of America, I'm on the west coast of Canada, but our minds are connecting. And so, what I'm also finding out is that we just don't have this personal, objective mind. We have this subjective mind, this cosmic mind that is one. And through meditation, through breath work, and through, I'm diving deep into the silver mind control method. I'm not sure, I mean, everyone's heard about it, because it was a very popular book back in the 70s, I think. But really using our mind to connect with other minds and do things like ESP, receive intuitive downloads, and also manifest. So just to summarize, these techniques and hacks and methods allow us to remember more of who we truly are.
I think that's so powerful and that's so important more than ever these days. I think
Yeah,
that we get distracted way too often and way too much.
yeah,
Um, that finding that core and coming back to our foundation, and I feel like having these micro practices, whether it's 10 seconds in the in a cold shower, 30 seconds, whatever, doing breath work every single day, meditating every single day, connecting to our spiritual being every single day, I think is it all compounds, right? It has a compounding effect, that then changes the way we walk through life and changes our decision making, and it changes, like, it ends up rippling and changes everything, I feel like. um, so kind of as we wrap this up, so tell me, what do you want people to walk away with? What should they How can they create small habits of change in their life to ultimately increase their longevity, increase their overall well-being, increase their health? um, is it the exposure, cold showers every single day? Can you just, like, maybe, we're heading into winter. Maybe we can just
right.
sit outside with a t-shirt on. Is that the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all going on different journeys. We're at different stages of our journey. And one of the challenges that we have these days, especially with social media and the internet, is the comparison syndrome. And just because somebody's taking a cold plunge with ice blocks, in their plunge daily, doesn't mean that the other person has to do it. But that could be an inspiration for them to develop their own practice. It doesn't have to be that extreme, but even something small is going to make big changes. 1% change that you do today can lead to exponential changes and differences like 365 days down the line. So, my invitation for your listeners is to develop something simple and take that one small step towards their transformation. We are on the verge of the new year 2023 right now. And my idea, my suggestion is that one small step that you can take right now can make an exponential difference towards the end of 2023. And my suggestion is also to not go big by jumping into the cold shower, because that might create a negative experience and make you feel as if cold shower, cold immersion overall is bad for you. So start small. Could be as simple as setting aside about 5 minutes to breathe. I would recommend the 4 by 8 technique, where you sit down in the evening, especially if you find it hard to fall asleep and to stay asleep. This is a powerful technique. Sit down, in a place where no one is going to disturb you, back straight. Inhale through your nose for 4 seconds slowly and exhale through your mouth or through your nose for 8 long seconds, and really elongating that exhale. Do that for about 5 to 7 minutes. You'll notice you feel drowsy, you feel relaxed, and you'll get good quality sleep. And again, I don't recommend it while driving or while operating machinery, but this 4 by 8 technique is my go-to method, especially if I'm finding it hard to sleep. In terms of the cold shower, start small. If you're doing a warm shower right now, towards the end, turn the cold dial and keep it for about 15 seconds and 20 seconds. And I find the most important thing for me, especially when starting a new habit, is to not forget to celebrate your victory. A lot of people will never do a cold shower. They listen to this episode and say, cold shower is not for me, and that's it. And they are never going to see what is possible. But some of you will try it out. So when you try it out, 15, 20 seconds, it might not be like a jump into a freezing lake, but that is your victory. So don't forget to celebrate it. 15 seconds, 20 seconds, celebrate it, journal it, note down how you feel, and that's what I would recommend. Breathwork and cold shower, something small.
That's awesome. Aditya, thank you so much. And so if people want to listen to your podcast, if they want to follow you, where do they go?
Yes, of course. My website is my7chakras.com. 7 is a word, my7chakras.com. That's where you can read my blogs. I write a lot about breathwork, cold exposure, crystals as well. I love crystals. I've got this crystal in front of me. And if you want to listen to my podcast, it is available on all major platforms: iTunes, Spotify, Google. You just have to search for my7chakras.com, my7chakras, and you will find it there.